Hey guys, wanted to give you a little demo speech, kind of what I'm looking for in this persuasive presentation. So I have chosen, by the way, this isn't an intro for me. So I have chosen the job that I put a cover letter up for, which is for a club manager position with Dickies Arena. So I'll give you a little bit about the position and give me 1 second. Let me pull up the job description here. So I want you to make sure that you list the job description and you have an understanding of what they're looking for in that position so that you can do this properly. So this is a club manager. Let me find it really quick. Clubs manager, there we go. Okay, so I'll do a break and I'm ready to go. There we go. Hello, I am Sarah Krim, and today I am applying for your full-time clubs manager position. It says that this position is responsible for overseeing all the clubs and restaurant team members, along with menu development and planning for full-service dining and restaurant menus for all of the clubs located at Dickies. So just want to give you a little bit about myself. I grew up working in arenas, and so Dickies is very similar to the arena I grew up at, which is the Freeman Coliseum, who used to host the San Antonio Rodeo. So that is the foundation of where I'm coming from. And then I have additional work experience that equips me and makes me a great fit for this position for you. So I did submit my cover letter and resume to you, and so you can look at my education and see my qualifications, but just want to give you an overview of my education and my work experience, and also just some of the attributes that I have that I think would be a good fit for this. So I did grow up at the Freeman Coliseum. My uncle was the manager there, and we spent every day down at the rodeo that they were in town, and so I learned kind of the ins and outs of management from the perspective of the manager of the Coliseum. That's what my uncle's position was. So I've always loved events, and that's where I got the bug for it. And from there, I went to college. I got my undergraduate master's in communication studies, and I did internships working at the United Spirit Arena and did some internships with different event companies while I was in college as well. So I always knew this is what I wanted to go into, but I also coupled it with a degree in communications and a master's in communications, which has helped me contribute different parts to this position, including crisis management, organizational management, different things that people may not learn just from the event planning side. So those are additional benefits that I have coming into this position. So my most recent position was with the Josh Abbott Band, and I was the day-to-day manager, which is essentially an assistant manager, and then worked to create and operate their nonprofit organization from the ground up. So I have experience building a budget and getting fundraising, figuring out funding, figuring out an annual budget where I can and cannot spend different things. So recently, Forbes created an article back in May of 2020, and Jessica Gonzalez did an overview kind of what the industry is right now, talking about what we have to do during this time period with event management and restaurants and venues such as yours. And so the most important properties of event planning right now are watching your wallet, preparing for a period of reentry, and prioritizing safety, which are all three things that I did in my previous position. And I have a lot of experience. Like I said, from the watch your wallet aspect, I have monitored a budget multiple times. I've done that from an individual stance of monitoring someone's personal budget if they have a private event. And I have also monitored a budget of hosting an event from that side. So I've seen both sides of it. Preparing for reentry, I've been able to do that when venues and restaurants have turned around. I managed marketing, social media, and operations for Max Barbecue during the pandemic, and helped them on the operations side transition from being a full store back to being a grocery storefront, then offering curbside, back all the way to a full service restaurant again. So I helped manage and implement that at 4 different locations across the state of Texas. Quite the headache when you look at different county regulations, but we were able to do it as smoothly as possible. And then the last portion is prioritizing safety, which is something I had to do regularly when I was the day-to-day manager with the Josh Abbott Band. We had to oversee crowd control, we had to oversee the backstage, we had to oversee the safety of our artists and also of anyone who was attending the event. We were liable for any injuries or any of the venues. And so I managed the insurance policies and also managed the teams that oversaw safety. So whether it was the police officers or it was the hired out contract workers that did security for the day of, they were under my lock and key. So I think with this particular position, you need somebody who has a good experience and has an understanding of who Dickies is, which I think I come in having that from my experience at the Freeman Coliseum. I'm also a native Fort Worthian and have lived there for off and on for about over a decade now. So I understand what Dickies means to the community, but I also have the work experience between managing restaurants and also managing the music side of business and also managing private events. And so I think I'm the right combination for you. So if you are looking for someone who can help you manage your budgets and onboard this and get it rolling from the minute I start, I think I'm the right person for you. So I would love to follow up with you guys. You have my contact information, you have my email, you have my phone number. So I am happy to provide references upon request. And I look forward to hearing from your team sometime in the future. Thank you. Okay, so that's a basic overview. The way that I kind of broke up my speech in that is talked about my previous experience, like just did it chronologically. So I went from my lifetime growing up, I worked at the rodeo when I was, or didn't work at the rodeo, but I grew up at the rodeo. My parents basically didn't make us work, but it was a family thing. So we were up at the Coliseum for 2 weeks a year when I was a kid. And the San Antonio rodeo has become huge. It was big back then, but it's gotten even bigger. So what I did was talk about my innate intrinsic experience with the rodeo and venues. So those are things that you can't necessarily articulate specifically in you could potentially in your cover letter, but maybe not your resume. So then I went into my college experience, and then I ended with my previous work experience, which was with the Josh Abbott Band planning events. And so I broke it up into a chronological order. You can do that. You can do it any order you want to do it. You could do your work experiences, like talk about like your different skill sets. You could break it up that way. So if I wanted to break mine up to communications was one chunk, and then another chunk was event planning, and then another chunk was food and beverage, I could break it up that way too. I'm totally happy with however you think it's a natural breakdown in your speech. I just want to make sure that it's, it flows well. So that's more of what I'm concerned with. Be sure to introduce yourself in the beginning, let them know what position you're applying for, and also thank them for their time at the end. Those are the overviews. So I didn't use a visual aid, I apologize, but you guys are welcome to use whatever you think fits within the qualifications of that. So if you have questions on a visual aid for this, give me a heads up. So hopefully this gives you a little walkthrough, and I hope I'm at the time constraints for that. So